It'll be starting in a second. Give it. There you go. We are now live. Live.
All right. So let's get started. So the weekly routine here, I guess release managers, that's done, right, for 110. So we should just leave this.
Yes, please. By
All
the
right.
way, I would also like to call out a few of the old managers are helping. So thanks a lot in reviewing the process and helping us out.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's good to know. We really need to start sending some swag once things become better in QS, I guess, for people who are doing many jobs. Let's see. So the weekly routine here, feature freeze was April 6th. We have done the branch cut and our feature frozen. That's good. Anything to add there, Shweta?
No, that was just a FYI.
Okay, excellent. And then the first community testing day is April 13th, Tuesday.
Correct. We have a couple of automation which needs to be done, but separate than that, there is no sign up since last week. And the automation, the ones which actually requires testing are 34, because other than that, they are automated. So 34 test cases, which are still P0s, requires the ownership, and the testing is starting Tuesday.
Okay, so this is a call out, I guess, for all the attendees and your buddies who work in Istio. Let's sign up and crack these 34 manual tests. So I'm guessing there's no way to automate these. That's why they will remain manual forever, or is that just lower priority for automating?
So there is a caveat, right? Out of 34, 12 can be automated. The rest are the ones which either needs consideration or they cannot be automated.
Okay. All right. In the last community testing, I'm guessing we don't do the live ones anymore. We just have the asynchronous ones. Is that correct?
That is correct. We still do the asynchronous.
All right. So what I would suggest, Shweta, is see till Monday if you have more participation. If not, you can poke us on Slack and during the working group leads meeting, bring this up. Hopefully we'll get enough participation.
Okay, great. Will do. Thank you.
Anything to add here, other folks? Right. It's pretty routine stuff. Release held for 110. So there are 3 release blockers. Do you want to talk about what they are?
We can talk. Sam, do you want to talk about that? I think we have a good handle, so I just wanted to give FYI. So Sam, why don't you go ahead and give some?
Yeah, so 3 release blockers. I think as of like the last hour, that should actually be 2 release blockers and 10 P0s. But I think it's premature to discuss the specifics right now in TOC, but I've reached out to the owners individually, and I think that these are release blockers we have paths to resolution for. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like the way you said it, we moved one of the blocker to be a P0. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So let us know again if you're short-staffed and somebody needs nudging. It looks like Sam and the other release managers have this handled well, so we'll keep moving. Next release, Istio 111. All right. So the timelines are 10th August. What's that? I think we discussed it last time. Do you need an explicit approval, Shweta, or this is again an FYI? Are you on mute?
Sorry, we have an approval of, already. We had an agreed upon time.
All right. So I'm just going to say this is approved. So next time we don't have to talk about it. Oops. No, nobody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to know what I was doing. All right, docs for achievements. There's nothing written here, but I just want to open the floor up. Are there any achievements somebody wants to highlight? We should do that. And this is not restricted just to the TOC members. No? Can you keep moving then?
I do want to say a thank you to everybody working on security-related fixes and CVEs. I know there's a lot of work being going on in the community related to that. Without naming names, naming people, naming CVs or anything like that, I do want to acknowledge that.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm part of product security working group, Louis, and there's lots and lots of effort going on. So for folks who are on this call, it just means we are going to make our security better. It's not where it is, but it takes a village to make it better, and that's what we're going through. Anything else? All right, keep moving. Doesn't look like there are any docs for offline review. Shweta, did you have something?
Nope.
All right. Jacob, I think this has been here for a while. I don't think, is this ready now? Is Jacob on? He's here, but he's not responding. So I'm going to suggest we remove this because it's just been sitting here for a while with no activity, and then bring it back once it's ready. All right, if nothing else, we'll move on to today's agenda items. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
So first one, hopefully this is quick. I'm proposing to move TOC to the Monday time slot at 9 a.m. PST. The two reasons for it. First is I wanted to move the time earlier so that folks like me and others from different time zones can attend in a reasonable hour. I had discussed it with the other TOC members and we had rough approval. The issue was on Friday, there were other meetings like steering, which was already on 9 a.m. PST. And it looked like Monday was kind of empty for the community calendar. So we chose Monday. So I just want to open the floor up here. If anyone has reservations, let us know. Otherwise, we are going to skip the next one on Friday and then start a new series from Monday following from 4/19. Louis, I think we didn't explicitly hear back from you.
Oh yeah, I was on vacation. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think, we'll have a couple of more missed days because US kind of national holidays tend to fall on Mondays, right? When there are 3-day weekends. So we'll probably, that will cause us to have 3 or 4 more non-schedulable TOC meetings a year, maybe a bit more than that. Like, I don't remember how many. It's somewhere in the 4 to 6 range, right? So we'll lose 1.5 a quarter. That's probably
an interesting point. Yeah. It looked like even on Fridays we were going to lose because of the new Google policy of every few Fridays being off. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean that's this year. It's not durable. But yeah, I mean we can always revise this anyway. So and if we need to schedule one-off TOC meetings to compensate, we can do that too. So I think it's fine.
Okay.
Is this only TOC voting on the times or others too?
I think feedback is open for everybody.
Yeah.
We didn't actually just vote. That was just more. But certainly the TOC members need to be available for the meeting. So there's that.
Yeah, but Mandar, if you have some concern or points, just feel free to raise it.
The only concern I have is that a lot of people join from the Pacific time, and beginning of week at the first up at the first thing is not ideal. But if we cannot make anything work, then why don't we run a poll?
Okay, I am not a wizard here. How is this done? Do you want to do that, other TOC members? I'm trying to understand what's the next steps here, or do you want to just continue with, let's try it out and see what happens and change it?
Oh, looks like you can do a poll from Google Meet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
Let's do
You're
that.
not going to get the people that are not coming now. You're not going to get them in the poll, so it's skewed towards people that can make today.
Yeah, which are 24 people, so that's a good number.
I say we
Okay.
just try it and like put something on the schedule to revisit. I don't know, in 4 weeks or something.
All right. So I'm going to say approved with. Is that okay with everyone?
Approved for experiment. How about that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Josh is not here as one of the TLC member. Do you think we should wait for him, or?
I think Josh.
We talked with him. Yeah.
I can check with Josh.
Okay.
I think he proposed this, by the way.
Yeah. I'm just going to put like at least 4 meetings or something like that and see what happens. Okay, cool. So can someone with calendaring powers, probably from Google, do the changes?
I think that's you, Sven, right?
I have already changed but I don't own the working group calendar. I'm not an admin of that.
I can do that.
Yeah, thank you, Shivada. I think I lost all my power when I changed jobs.
So can I then just move it from next week to 4/19 if you all agree, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, John, the next one is your agenda item. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so we've discussed this a couple of times in the past. This is basically about the changes to the inbound forwarding with the local host cluster and matching Kubernetes behavior. We got the feedback previously that we want to do this, but we are a bit worried about the impact it may have on upgrade. And the feedback from POC was, yeah, sorry if that's too small. We should have some command that, before every upgrade, users run the upgrade check, and we'll encode all of, or as much of, like upgrade notices in code rather than expect users to read them. And the first would be checking for this. So we have done that. You can kind of see the output here. It's a bit small, but it will show you all of your pods that will be impacted. So if you run this before you upgrade, then assuming all goes well, you should be notified if anything's going to change, and you can go fix those pods. Or if it was just a mistake and they're not actually broken, then ignore it. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to make sure that this is what we wanted, and if there's anything else we want to do before we enable this for 110.
So John, this is great. So we incorporated this as part of the upgrade check, right? So this is good. The istioctl command. Where do we document this workflow? Or is this the first time when the release notes come out, we'll say, hey, before you upgrade, run this command?
Yeah, so this is the first time. So what I'm planning is, one, for this specific change, I'm going to have a blog post explaining it. And in that thing, it will specifically say, like, here's how you detect if you're impacted, run pre-check. Two, we'll mention it in the upgrade notes, like run the pre-check command. And I think we can also put on the install and upgrade documentation. It's actually, it can be used for both. So it's meant to be not just upgrade check. We changed the name since that picture, but it's a check for pre-install and pre-upgrade. So I was going to also update the main documentation to say, like, before istioctl install, run the check tool, and it should give you the green light to go ahead and install. Same with upgrade.
Okay.
Hey, John, I think this is really good. One question I have is, what's the thought process from you to have a dedicated command with having it part of the analyzer command? Because I do remember we kind of tell people, if you need to upgrade Istio, go ahead, run the analyzer command and see what warning you got, right? If we have newer version of API that may not be compatible with your environment, we would warn you. So I assume this is an additional command, and what's your thought process of not having it as part of the analyzer?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Yeah, like you may note, this is using the analyzer stuff under the hood. both under the hood and in the output, like it's the exact same output as the analyzer gives. I think we probably can consolidate them a bit.
So Lynn, in particular, the reason that we don't have this running as part of the analyzers today is twofold. One, it reads data that the analyzer framework does not have access to. Analyzers are by definition config only. They do not have runtime access to Envoy, etc. And this particular operation does require that. So things like CI/CD would not be able to use this. The second is we are trying to create a set of analysis-like operations that are particular to upgrade. So if you're running Istio 1.9, you're running Istio 1.9's analyzers. And so those analyzers are not going to include any problems with an upgrade to 1.10. The idea would be that you download istioctl 1.10 and run upgrade pre-check, which runs only commands that are relevant to your upgrade. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, except I guess I was under the impression when you upgrade, you download a new istioctl, exactly like you said, but run the analyzer on the new istioctl.
Yeah, running all of analysis will give you a lot more information than is necessarily relevant to your upgrades, and also will not give you this particular check that John has written. So that's why we have a particular command. It's just the subset of analyzers that are relevant to upgrade, along with a few other runtime checks.
Yeah, so Mitch, I would say that like today, you're absolutely right. The analyzer doesn't have access to this info. And in the continuous running analyzer, I certainly think it never should. Like it should never exec into pods. But there's no reason that the istioctl analyze command can't also include this, right? It seems like, I mean, we have to think about the details, but we could probably combine them. You can add a flag that's like -- include upgrade checks or whatever we want. But ultimately, I'm sure we can find a way to make it reasonably be just one command.
Yeah, I'm very hesitant to have analyzers do this amount of deep access into the cluster. This is meant to be a lightweight command. It's also, it needs to be able to ingest files only. And I don't see how that would be feasible for this work.
Well, it doesn't need to be. It needs to have an option to run files only, right? We already have and by default, do access the cluster.
If I can,
so we can just skip it if they don't have the cluster access, right?
Well, it's only access, right?
Can I add one small comment here on this topic? In practice, yeah, I understand that how it is today, but there is a need to have more fine granularity of permissions and access control, starting with ability for users to run analyze with access to a namespace only, and then with file only, which is very important for CI/CD, but also what John mentioned with cluster admin or with mesh admin. So we need to kind of refine a bit the analyzer permission model, so all three models are supported, because in particular where you have access to namespace only.
So right now that is supported. Analyzers can be run against a particular namespace only. And no matter what model you're running them under, they are read-only. So they don't do any port forwarding, any pod execing. If you have read permissions to the Kubernetes API server or to a file system that has your configs in it, you can run all the analyzers.
No, I meant if you have for namespace, you should be able to also exec into pods and do a deeper analyze if necessary. I mean, it's too limiting to only have API server access.
I think what the source of confusion here is, I feel like there are too many subcommands or commands, and sometimes it's not clear when to run for a user, because I think there is a istioctl verify install. Maybe that's going to get deprecated. I don't know. Then this new one, and then istioctl analyze. I understand, Mitch, your point that there are security boundaries where some commands, fit very well. So the UX here, which is important, is do you want to have commands with options where the security boundary gets expanded, or do you want to have different commands altogether?
And I think, if I understand right, John, this command is actually not the final form, right? We're not using upgrade check. We've combined it with the pre-check command so that it's not adding a net new.
Yeah, but we've gone from having 7 commands to 6 commands. We're still like check, analyze, verify, install, upgrade, install. Like there's a ton of commands. I even couldn't figure it out. So I kind of agree it's complex.
Okay, so there's probably some desire to consolidate or rationalize the UX across that set of commands. But I think we're all in agreement that we want a very clear definition of a command that is a pre-upgrade or pre-install as a use case. And it's perfectly fine for that to be, well, a command that is named differently than analyze. Analyze is an incredibly generic name anyway, so we might want to think about that. But if the question here is, should the TOC approve this command? I think the answer is yes. I think the question then going forward to the US working group is, what should the rationalized set of commands and options those commands should be to make sure that those varying use cases are well understood by users?
Louis, I'm not totally sure if the answer to the first question is yes, especially if this is not an experimental command. Okay, is this an experimental command? Like, I don't want to give something to the users and then take it away the next release.
This is experimental.
Okay. And istioctl experimental is like experimental in other pieces of Istio, so we can take it away and break things without backwards compatibility.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, this command represents a backwards compatibility break with the previous pre-check command, which was also experimental.
Right, assuming that you had automated that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had automated the pre-check?
Automated the call of it, right?
Yeah, not just the call, but automated like parsing the output, which is not standardized. So
it's not an API.
Yeah.
So then I agree with Louis, actually. I'm fine approving this with the caveat that we will revisit and understand what's the gambit of commands look like, and can we give a clearer instruction to the users.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have, and Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, as yet put enough rigor into trying to, say, formalize the output so that it could be consumed by automation, right? That hasn't been a primary goal yet for a lot of this.
For all of the analyzers, that is one of the primary goals. They have structured output that is possible.
Do we think we have met the goal, right? Do we have the feedback to establish that that the automation people are building on top? They're providing us feedback saying that we feel like this is stable and is doing what they want?
We receive a lot of positive feedback around analyzers. I don't know that we have dug into that to understand how much of that is an automated consumption and how much of that is manual running.
Yeah.
So from my interaction with customers and also perusing the Istio GitHub issues, I think most of the time it's running it, getting the exit code, printing it. I've not seen a lot of automation around consuming the JSON output or any other format of output.
Okay.
Yeah. To be clear, we do consume our own structured output as well in the use of the analysis messages in the status, which we are hoping will move to beta in 1.11.
Okay. All right.
All right. So what's the decision here? Sven, you want to weigh in? Are we heading in the direction that you like?
Sorry, coming off mute. Yeah, I'm fine with this. I don't have too strong opinions. Obviously, we should try to consolidate commands as much as we can, but like the most important thing is getting this out for 1.10 so people can actually see the errors and prevent them.
Yeah.
One thing to be aware of too, this is reporting on any use of alpha or deprecated annotations in your install, which we do use by default in the Istio install. So one of the reasons for keeping this experimental is that we know we need to clean up our use of existing alpha and experimental, etc. features by default. So we're going to get some users who see this and are a little bit concerned, as they should be, frankly.
Mitch, I did not include that in the PR.
Oh, so that was in my PR.
Yes, and then I removed it.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't think it was useful because for every pod it reports errors that are bogus, and I want users to see the real errors. So I figured we would wait until we actually made it useful and not too noisy.
Okay. That is something we've gone back and forth on a number of times now, whether we want this enabled, or like how we move forward. And the most recent decision that we had was that the best way to move forward is to set it up as experimental, where it's not going to be bothering users that are using our normal commands, and then iterate and improve from there.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to the weeds, but I don't see how it's useful to report an error when there is none. I mean, we literally inject these annotations onto every pod. So then to go around and warn them that we injected an annotation is kind of not, it just doesn't make sense to me. So but we're probably going too far into the weeds here.
Yeah. So for me, what I have heard, and Lynn, feel free to pitch in if you still have reservations about this. It looks like the experimental upgrade pre-check command is approved. We want to make sure for 110, we are highlighting this in all the forums and documentation, blogs, release notes we have. And then the last thing is after 110, we want to have the UX working group look at the various istioctl commands, come up with a better UX with a consolidated workflow.
No, this is great. Yeah, I agree with this. And John, thank you for, having a program way for user to detect this. And I like also you remove the bonus warnings. I'd rather not see them. So thank you.
So John, just to be clear, in the behavior, when we provide the warning is telling users that they are going to be affected by a change in default behavior and that they should correct, right? That is what we're doing. It is not that we're trying to do anything more refined than that.
Yeah, so it will detect where the behavior will change, and then they can go to the link for the details and get an explanation of what's going on.
Okay, all right.
So
yeah, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was just getting probably too much in the weeds, but John, on the actual error message, I don't know if what's in here is the current one, but ideally there would be a don't just report the error, but tell the user what to do. So we should say something like, if this is okay, you don't need to do anything. If you need this to be exposed, do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the error, I changed the error bit. I don't know if it fully does that because it was already getting kind of long, but it gives you, I think, a summary, and then the intent, or at least my expectation, is that they would then go to the IST code, which I don't think you can see down here, but at the bottom it says, if there's warnings, it says go to this link to find details. And then on that page, we'll have the full istio.io doc that can be large and have diagrams and big YAML examples and whatnot to explain what to do.
Yeah, it would be good if we could put that link in the actual message.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than having them have an indirection of look at the warning, copy the code, go look at some other link, right? The more we can do to say, click this and it'll tell you how to fix it, the easier it is for users. So
yeah,
Mitch, random suggestion is maybe we could go and convert the IST codes into a brutally short link.
So that's just a flag on the command. You can have it output documentation links. The problem with that flag is that it makes the output exceedingly long because the URL is quite long as well. So it's off by default, but it's available.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could find a short link convention that might make it tolerable.
When you're dealing with the terminal and we're talking 240 characters or less, that's not a lot of URLs are going to fit there, especially not when you need to have all of the IST codes, etc. I mean, if we wanted to do URLs only, we could do that, but then there's no error message.
I think Louis was suggesting we have a shortened URL. That's something very
If you could get the IST code to be almost the same length as the URL, then that might be a worthwhile trade.
Yeah.
The IST code would become a URL. It might be a trick. Anyway, weeds. we can move on.
Yeah.
I want to make one comment before we move on. I mean, I certainly agree we should look into the links. I almost feel the warning is a little bit too weak. I think it's like action. They actually have to do something. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. If they take the warning and not do anything, their application will be broken.
Well, it may be broken. Maybe they just expose the port on their service and they don't actually care, and no one actually calls it.
Okay, so if the port is
the error message is not the actual error message in the final command.
Wait, we do know though if it is called or not, right? Like we have metrics. We know it. We don't have to guess.
Well,
we won't have access to it in most of the environments.
Yeah, so certainly, if the port number was like 80 or 443, right? There's a very, very high probability it's going to be called. But I think users can make that assessment, right? As long as the documentation tells them, they can always try it, and if it breaks, then they were warned. But they prefer not to. They should go read the documentation, I think.
Yeah, I was just thinking change that warning to action because we really need them to assess this and do something to evaluate whether their app going to be broken or not.
Here is my suggestion, Lynn. So John, why don't you link the PR here, and Lynn and anyone else in the TOC or otherwise, we can go and comment on it and see if the error messages or the warning is suitable. I think that can be done on the PR side instead of deciding here. How about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, since we're on the topic, I'd like to raise the issue of this alpha analyzer and ask for some kind of gridlock breakage. This is something that we added to 1.9, and because of the verbosity in analyze, we decided to roll it back. So we didn't want these analysis messages going out. The analyze command is not experimental, and so there was some concern that we're telling users we're a little bit more noisy than we should be there. The decision then was to add it to 110 disabled by default, which we've done. Well, we did, and now it sounds like it's been pulled back from 110 as well. Who should be deciding how we move forward on this feature, and how do we ensure, because we're kind of stuck on it at this point.
So this is you're using an alpha feature and you should, or an experimental feature, and you should probably stop.
Yes. This was part of the initiative to improve upgrades in Istio 1.9.
Yeah.
My opinion is that we should never flag as a warning something that Istio injected itself. So that means anything on the sidecar probably should be allow listed.
I totally agree with you, Ed. I don't think it's a question about that, because I think we have agreement there that we shouldn't be, warning users about things that are set by default. The question is more how to move forward. Do we enable the command knowing that we're using some alpha features by default, or do we wait to build this command until we are comfortable that we're not using any alpha features by default? Because that'll be some time. That'll be a really long time.
Is there a way to have an option to have the roll-up and the instance be separate levels of detail, right? So, right, if you're using an alpha annotation or an alpha label or some other funky edge legacy stuff, the default behavior, if we think it's noisy, is that we tell you, you have 3 of these things, and then run with this flag.
I don't think it's noisy, and the concern around noise is about how many alerts you're going to get, as much as that you're going to get alerts on things that we set for you by default. You're going to be warned against things that we've done rather than things that the user has done.
So I think the path forward then is reasonably straightforward here, right? For things that we have to do to make Istio functional, we have to allow them or whitelist them, like Ed was saying, until we don't no longer depend on them. And even after that, if we find that the verbosity of the output is high, we can do some level of collapsing and then expanding via more detailed CLI arcs, right?
So that sounds, Niraj, like introducing sort of a third tier of life cycle. There's like, or fourth, fifth, experimental alpha, beta, GA, or stable. And then there's also this sort of not yet beta, but also we're not going to complain about it. We can call it special, we can hide it, and basically we wouldn't report on those particular things.
Sadly, that's where we are.
Might it not be better just to say if we are using these by default and have been using them by default for a long time, they are de facto beta?
Unless we plan to remove them, because I know there are a few things that we were discussing that accidentally happened to be used by Istio, but we will remove them once better APIs land. Like, for example, telemetry V2 using the on-web filters, right? There might be better ways to get rid of it. So we might never make on-web filters beta.
So I don't think we should mark something beta just because we use it. I don't think that's the right path.
Yeah.
I think the right path is let's allow list the things that we're using, and that actually is a nice checklist for us of things we need to resolve, right, in the future.
Absolutely.
Of all the stuff that we're sort of cheating.
Okay. I think that sounds reasonable, and I think it's feasible from a technology perspective. Can we document that decision here so that we don't run the risk of this out of 1.11?
Yeah, so make an explicit allow list of alpha experimental features used by Istio. One on rest, and then basically if the output is verbose, we can figure out other ways of organizing it.
Yeah. Michi, thank you for raising this. I think this is very useful for a user because there's just so many warnings today. It's hard to process.
All right. This is good. Any other topics we have for discussion today?
So, Savan, you want to bring up the message you sent?
Oh, sure. Oh, so I was asking John, well, I guess that everyone. So should we make it an error instead of a warning? So John in the chat said that basically the actual error, the warning here is the pod is listening on that port and there's a service pointing at it, which means, like, I thought it was just there's a pod listening and, it's listening on localhost, but so what if there's no service? But this is actually for ones where there is a service. So that's not just a warning, that's an error. Like, it's going to break. So we should make it an error if we have.
Sounds good to me. I mean, if this is not an error, when it is.
Yeah. I think we generate too many warnings. People tend to ignore warnings. So if it's an error, I'd rather be error.
All right, consider it done. I sent the PR to make it an error.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was quick.
COC code review.
I would say, John, when you start writing release notes and stuff like that for this, feel free to include us to get early feedback. If we know this is a breaking change already, we want to make sure it's front and center.
Yep, I plan to make a lot of noise about this. I do have a PR for a blog already, and then we'll probably link to it or copy it in the release notes or something like that. So it's in a lot of places.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
And we should market it not as we're breaking everyone, but we're making it a great usability and security improvement. We talk a lot about the negative here, but we should present it in the blog as a positive, I think.
Yes, we're helping people capture their unintended consequences.
Yeah. Maybe, John.
Wait,
the marketer
is this a CVE? Is this a CVE mitigation?
We technically don't have it as CVE. I was thinking as a way to give more visibility, it might be useful to do a, what do we call them, security advisory. But yeah.
We can talk about it, John, in the product security working group. Let's do that first and then bring it. But yeah, lots of noise. I think I'm in agreement with that. Okay. Are there any other topics, or can we get 16 minutes back?
All right, Shweta had put something at the top about pushing the release back a week. I don't know if that's still valid.
I would like Josh to be here. It was discussed in the PSWG group, so
Okay.
I'm still not clear how to bring these things up, so I would like to wait.
I
Okay.
think we approved it.
It was raised in the TOC channel in Slack.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was approved there, I think. So
Yeah, you're good to go, Shweta.
Okay, so then it's a FYI for everyone here that we are pushing the date by a week.
yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Can we just write it down? What are we pushing to?
I think it's 18th at this point.
I'm 18. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it? 418?
Yep, it's May, right? Oh, it's April. I thought it's May.
Yeah, May 5.
Okay.
May 18th.
Yeah, we have one more month.
Yeah. Got it. Perfect. Believe me, working on IPv6 is not easy on dual stack. That listener has been hounding me the whole day. That's why it keeps coming back in my paste log. Anyways. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else, folks? If not, we'll meet on the Monday and we'll have a whole week without seeing each other. So that's good, I guess.
Happy Friday. Enjoy the
Thanks,
week.
everyone.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye.